Welcome back to the Burnout Bouncebackability video series. So what the heck is burnout? In this second in my series of Burnout Bouncebackability videos, I'm going to be exploring the definition of burnout, and I'll compare that to my own experiences to give you a real life example of what burnout looks like and feels like. Now, burnout is not a medical condition. Instead, it is recognised as an occupational phenomenon in the International Classification of Diseases by the World Health Organization. The ICD defines burnout as, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here to make the definition a little bit more absorbable, a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic or persistent workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It is characterized by three symptoms, feelings or observations. Firstly, feelings of exhaustion or energy depletion. Secondly, increased mental distance from one's job. And finally, a reduced professional efficacy, capability or capacity. And I'm still quoting here, burnout refers specifically to phenomena in the occupational context and should not be applied to describe experiences in other areas of life. So that's the official definition, and let's compare that with my experience. I personally experienced my acute burnout phase 6 to 8 years ago. However, for me, burnout started about 25 years before that with a sequence of trauma events. At that time, I never completed what I like to call my emotional processing cycle for those traumas. And because I had a backlog of unprocessed emotions, it meant many years later when work stress, work isolation and long working hours, amongst many other things, all started to build, my body and mind just simply couldn't cope. My decline into burnout took over 10 years, silently creeping, culminating in burnout 8 years ago, and I didn't see it building. But gradually, day after day, it just kept piling up. And then, as I like to call it, on my burnout day, I came out of a client meeting, the type of thing I'd done thousands of times before. I got down onto my haunches, put my head in my hands, and I stayed there for maybe a minute. And it was in that moment that I thought, this can't go on. And it was in that moment that my recovery started. For me, when I became burned out, I felt completely exhausted. My physical energy was done, mentally I was scrambled, and emotionally I was absolutely done. And that scrambling of my mind meant that my ability to deliver felt like it was compromised, which in turn created its own set of additional emotional turmoil about my standing in the workplace, my reputation at work, if you like. And finally, I had a feeling of disconnection from the organisation. In the years prior, I worked remotely. I had increasing feelings of frustration towards the company, and for various reasons, I felt disconnected from it. In a short video like this, it's impossible to capture all of my experiences and to compare them to the official definition. But when I look at that definition, my experience is a pretty good personal mirror of it. I want to express a personal view that extends the ICD definition though. I personally assert that burnout is wider than a traditional work context. I believe that burnout can be applied in other work-related contexts too, anywhere where there is a consistent activity that has meaning for somebody. So in a high-performance amateur sporting context, or as a volunteer family caregiver, maybe, or as a homemaker, and so on. They kind of aren't work in the strictest definition, but to that person, they sure as hell might feel like work. My focus and my experiences are in the corporate world. I work a lot with corporate executives and high-performing corporate professionals, as well as with students. And I assert that pretty much everything that I am sharing in this video series will be relevant to all of those cohorts. And there might be some working environments that have some uniquenesses for which I have no direct experience, particularly those environments that have been significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm thinking here of those working tirelessly on the front line, such as in critical care and in emergency response. I hope that you can take some value from these videos too, despite its corporate focus. My experience in the corporate world was mine. It will be similar to the experiences of many other people, but each experience will be unique. And that's why this series is about you. I'll lean on my experience, but my focus is to give you some burnout bounce back ability value. Most people experiencing burnout will experience those feelings of complete exhaustion, physical, mental, or emotional. They will feel some form of disconnection with the organisation they work for, or maybe even anger towards it, and their performance might decline as a result. And if that's you, then it's time to take action. Towards the end of the video series, I'll be releasing the ebook to accompany this series, and in next week's video I'll take a look at how recovery can look before taking a peek at some techniques and skills that people can use to recover or bounce back from burnout. Don't forget those dimensions of burnout and be on the lookout for them: exhaustion, disconnection, and reduced professional capability. Be on the lookout for them. I'm Stuart at Unscrambled Heads. I'm a high performance coach working with corporate professionals, executives and students. I specialise in burnout, recovery and prevention. Please comment, subscribe or connect to catch my Burnout Bouncebackability video series.